We are online now.
Go ahead.
Assalamualaikum, and today we are in the next episode, and I think the last episode of communication series on Jumuah Gems. So I'm gonna give the being host to Brother Muhammad, so he can start presenting to us. Yes, go ahead, brother.
Sure. Here we are. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Hope you're doing well. MashaAllah, it's Jummah, best day of the week. And I hope and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all as well. And if you've been with us since the beginning, kudos to you. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put barakah, and hope you found value in every single session that we've done. All right, no worries. So now, when it comes to communication is a big deal. You've probably seen this more than enough in life in general. And in our case with Kalam, what we've done is we separated communication into three parts. Communication with yourself, you're in your own skin, and you always have to live with yourself every single day. So are you really communicating to yourself in the best way possible? Then is communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, and so the people have different relationships with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we want to make sure that we get that settled. And now we've come to the part where it's about communicating with others. Typically, when I mention about communication, or anyone, when you hear the word communication, oftentimes the knee-jerk reaction is speaking with other folks, your colleagues, your friends, your family, etc., with another human being. How can I communicate more effectively? But you notice that we place that at the very end, because the whole setup and framework is that if you're not communicating with yourself in the best way, and nor if you're communicating with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best way, how are you and I expected to communicate with others in the best way? So we can always try to play around with the order, but at the end of the day, we've put it in its place. Now, the agenda for today, and when it comes to communicating with others, the first part is there's a huge difference between being lonely versus being alone. And now more than ever, especially in this digital age, we are more connected, at least with the social community. With social media, we're more connected than ever, but we're more distant than ever, ironically enough. So how can we bridge the gap with that? And how do we make that distinction? Then the art of listening. I know we talked about communication, but I'm sure if you heard the old adage, you got two ears and one mouth for a reason. Some people like to talk the talk, but not listen to the other person. So we'll dive into that. Then nonverbal communication. Again, you may have heard of the whole phrase that it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And most of the communication is nonverbal. You can express all you want, you can say it in your words, but in your tone of voice, and not just your tone of voice, in your body language, the things that you don't say communicates a lot. And last but not least, how do we cultivate an attitude of gratitude? And how this whole communication with others can really reflect. If we cultivate that attitude, see how it goes. So without further ado, Brother Maruf, you ready to go? Are we ready? All right, perfect. So I found this image about, they say a picture is worth 1,000 words. And if I can humbly ask Brother Maruf, when it comes to the difference between being alone versus being lonely, what does this image convey to you, knee-jerk reaction as soon as you see it?
Like my first impression on the image is the one person seems to sitting alone, and I think the pondering, like, I don't know, meditating or something in a good state. So we all need that kind of time from time to time. The other person seems to be lonely, that's stressed, it just really bothers him, that state.
Yeah, there you go. So you can even see, or look, if we just take a moment and analyze this photo for just a moment, the one on the left, the person that's blue, head down, kind of like on his own. You can't judge in this moment, like what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what's happening. But in this case, this particular image was related to loneliness versus being alone. The person who's sitting upright, when you're comfortable in your own skin and you're like, you know what, I'm pretty happy with where I am, with who I am, and I don't need someone else to just make me happy, or so this is one way to look at things. There's that whole situation between loneliness and being alone. And one way to put it is that the one way to put it is that loneliness is like a feeling, but being alone is a state of mind. So loneliness is a feeling. If you don't get your friend, okay, imagine you invite people to show up at your event. How many times have you tried asking your friends, your family, or folks to show up to an event, and then all of a sudden they don't show up? And so how do you feel in that moment, right? You feel like, oh, there's this expectation. But when you're feeling alone, or when you are in a state of being alone, it's like, whether or not if they show or they don't show, I'm not going to let that affect my own well-being or state of mind. So loneliness is essentially dependency, and being alone is independent. So that's one way. As Muslims, one of the biggest things, there's a whole dichotomy here. Is the prophets, and you'll see in the next hadith, you'll see there's a hadith actually of Rasulullah talking about this whole balance between being alone versus loneliness. One example, one of the biggest examples, you're talking about loneliness. I can't think of a better example than Yunus alayhi salam. If you notice all among the prophets, you will find that there is this intricate balance between them talking to the people. So they're going around trying to give the message, spread the message of Islam. And at the same time, there were times where they had to be alone with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, have that communication. So look at how Yunus alayhi salam, faced three types of darknesses: the darkness of the sea, darkness of the night, darkness in the belly of the whale. Now, if you're familiar with the story, and for those, if this is the first time you've heard of it, basically Prophet Yunus, he was famous for being swallowed by a whale. And, subhanAllah, can you imagine in that moment? You talk about loneliness, you talk about being on social media, you talk about getting on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, what have you, TikTok, whatever is your social media preference, and then you have a hard time connecting with folks day to day, and you might say that's impossible. Look at just take a moment and think about this. In this particular situation, being swallowed by a whale in the darkness of the night and at the bottom of the sea, who can be lonelier than that? Physically, subhanAllah. But look at this immortalized dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala kept in the Quran, right? That Yunus alayhi salam, he said, La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min al-dhalimin. None has the right to be worshipped but you, O Allah. Glorified are you. Truly, I have been of the wrongdoers. Now, the reason I'm bringing this example up, and just to highlight and showcase for us in this deen, is that there is a difference between being alone versus loneliness. The prophets themselves, the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, had moments where they were faced with difficulty and that they were isolated. And now with the pandemic, we've gotten a good taste of that as well, the whole isolation. And but imagine, they didn't have any technology, they didn't have Zoom, they didn't have any of these things, or a phone call. But at the end of the day, they had that balance. You see, like going back to this picture, there's this balance. They didn't let their state of mind depend on others' presence. If this person shows up, alhamdulillah. If this person doesn't show up, okay, alhamdulillah. I'm not gonna give my energy to folks, because if you always depend on the creation, you're gonna be disappointed. It's just how it is. And so Yunus alayhi salam, you notice, did he call upon his family? Did he call upon his friends? Did he call upon anyone? Who did he call? To Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, is there any thoughts that you have, Brother Maruf, about this so far? Any distinction that you want to make about being lonely versus loneliness? Have you seen this in your day-to-day?
No, I think you covered this topic pretty well. Alhamdulillah.
Okay, mashallah. Well, I guess we'll keep going. There's this interesting hadith I've discovered. SubhanAllah, very, very interesting. Look at this. the Prophet ﷺ mentioned something about traveling and about lonely, and it's in a unique way. Rasul ﷺ said that if the people knew what I know about traveling alone, then nobody would travel alone at night.
Hmm.
So already here, okay, let's pause for a second. So number one, let's recognize that in the deen, there is the topic of being discussed about loneliness and being alone. So Rasul ﷺ is addressing something directly. Now, when it comes to traveling alone, here's one thing that's unique. I was looking at the commentary of this, and a few things come to mind when it comes to this recommendation or this statement of the Prophet ﷺ. Number one, if you're traveling alone, let's just say at a physical level, just at a surface level, if someone's traveling alone, isn't it more likely that if there was harm to come their way, that they would be in more danger? Even if we were to go back in the past, the Prophet ﷺ, for instance, just for a moment, traveling across the desert by yourself, what do you think is going to happen? You got, there's animals, there are other people, bandits, whoever, just come and jump you. Then that's already a problem. Nowadays, you might say to yourself, well, alhamdulillah, life is safer. I don't know about that. I mean, it's still some other place in the world. If you're traveling alone, you're seen as a foreigner, you don't know your way around, people can sniff it out and they will notice, and people can unfortunately take advantage of that. So Rasulullah is already mentioning this is one thing, right, about that. The other interesting thing I noticed when looking into the commentary of this is that it even affects you spiritually. Now you might be wondering how does it affect you spiritually when you're traveling from point A to point B? Imagine you're going to a place, and let's just say there's a casino that's around the corner. There's a casino, and if you're on your own, and let's just say a temptation is there to go visit this casino, who's there to pull you back? When you have a group of folks, let's say a group, a clan of folks, 3 or 4 or 5 people, and let's just say one person say, hey, let's go check it out. Even though you know full well that it's not a great idea. At least you would have somebody pulling you aside and say, hey, maybe this isn't such a good idea. Hey, you know what, let's not do it. But if you're on your own, how shaitan just opens that door and you can go through this, that, and the other. So subhanAllah, the key here, what I'm trying to say is when it comes to loneliness versus being alone, Rasulullah as a prophet, he experienced both. And he was someone who not only dealt with the people, but also dealt with being alone. And this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, it just emphasizes that this deen really talks about everything. So even at the practical level of traveling, subhanAllah, there is some mention of that. So having said that, that's one food for thought when it comes to differences of being alone versus loneliness. Now, anything you want to add, Brother Maruf, before we move to the next stage here?
Yeah, just a quick thing. As much as I agree, traveling alone is not the best thing. At the same time, you should also make sure your companion is a good person, right? Mm-hmm. You may be a good willing if the companion, imagine if you see the casino, it's what if the companion says, let's go and check it out, right? So sometimes it could be not only you, sometimes it could be the other side as well. So that's why not only in traveling, but in life and friends as well, the companions are crucial, who they are, right?
100%. You brought up a valid point right there. You have somebody encouraging you to do the wrong thing, and that's not great either. It's just that's counterintuitive. And especially when it comes to travel, you'll notice that people are very vulnerable at this point because you're not familiar with the land, you're not familiar with the area, and if you don't trust the person that's your companion, then that's going to be a big problem. You notice that if people go to Umrah or Hajj, oftentimes you'll see that they are best buds by the end because you go through that whole experience together. So there's something there. But look at that. Rasulullah is even talking to us about traveling alone. But again, alone is a state of mind. Loneliness is an emotion.
And they also say that this is also how you get to know people, right? Either through travel or through hardship or doing a business together.
Exactly. You got it. So now when it comes to the action, what can we do? How can we? So we have that little conversation, little action plan. how can we differentiate between loneliness versus being alone? One thing is, especially now in this day and age, stop comparing your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. Oftentimes people, they feel like they can't connect with so and so because you take a look at their Instagram and you're like, wow, they're so much more accomplished than me. Wow, they're so different from me. Wow, they're so much more amazing than me. So why bother if I reach out? And so recognize and realize that just because there are some folks who, mashallah, have accomplished a lot, they're not telling the whole picture. They're not giving you the whole story online. So when it comes to loneliness is one way, and it's inevitable. We're humans, we're social beings, right? Adam alayhi salam, when he was created, he was on his own, and he's saying, oh no, like who does he have to talk to? And then came his wife. So at the end, we do need in social interactions. The key here is that we don't need it for survival as much as oxygen. That's where things can get dangerous. When somebody is saying, if they've gotten to the point where I can't eat lunch without someone else being with me, I'm no psychologist or anything. I would say there might be something there. But the point is, being alone is solitude, right? You'll be able to say, you know what, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always with me. But at the end, even when we're communicating with others, this whole issue of loneliness, people who are clingy, people who are emotionally dependent on someone, this can be a problem. And part of it has to do with comparing your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us all and find the right companions for ourselves. And that even if the right companion doesn't come along, just like Yunus alayhi salam in the belly of that whale, you got Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you got Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you got a friend, right? So, and you have a protector. Now, the art of listening. There's a very famous quote by Stephen Covey. You may have heard of this before, that most people do not listen with the intent to understand, they listen with the intent to reply. Now, this is big when it comes to arguments. I guarantee, take your pick, go look on YouTube, find a lot of folks, go on the YouTube comments. A lot of people are so excited to have that zinger, so excited to one up, so excited to just decimate the other person, but not truly understand and hear the words of what the other person is saying and truly understand that. You can see it time and time again. And this is a big flip, right? When somebody, if Brother Maruf, you're gonna say something, if I'm just sitting there and just listening with, okay, how am I gonna one up Brother Maruf, or how am I going to reply just to maybe poke holes in his argument? You missed out what was already said. And then you end up with this vicious cycle of just, you're not listening. How many times people, they say, I've been talking to you for like the same thing over and over, but most people don't listen with the intent to understand. Stop, pause, put aside your judgments, put aside your preconceived notions, put aside whatever situations are going on. Just let me see if I can try to figure out, what are you trying to say? What a world of a difference that would be. Instead of entering in every discussion like it's a boxing match where you're trying to punch out the person, why don't you just stop and listen and say, maybe this person has something to offer? And subhanAllah, our deen teaches us this. Look at this. There is a wonderful example. Look at this in action. This is in the Quran. And just to set the stage for a moment, Musa alayhi salam, Moses, peace be upon him, now he's a messenger, he's a prophet. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling him to go talk to the Pharaoh, basically convey the message of Islam, say that, la ilaha illallah, right? Just that there's no God but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so here we go. Musa alayhi salam is having, now here's this dialogue happening between Musa alayhi salam and Pharaoh. Look at how this conversation is going. And tell me how this doesn't, you'll see how strikingly similar this happens in our day-to-day. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, go to Pharaoh and say, we are messengers. By messengers, this is Musa alayhi salam and his brother Harun alayhi salam together. We are messengers from the Lord of all worlds, commanded to say, let the children of Israel go with us. So now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us as the reader, this is what Musa alayhi salam and Harun alayhi salam said to Pharaoh. So they said this. Okay. Look at Pharaoh's response right away. Okay, right immediately. Pharaoh protested. Did we not raise you among us as a child, and you stayed several years of your life in our care? Then you did what you did, being utterly ungrateful. Let's unpack this situation for a moment. Musa alayhi salam is talking about Tawheed, right? Let the children of Israel go with us, and also about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And now Pharaoh's response is, didn't we raise you? Now, is Pharaoh listening with the intent to understand? What do you mean? What's happening? What are you trying to tell to us? Like, we are the children. I mean, we are the messengers. Let the children. Is Pharaoh listening to that, or you see he's trying to deflect the conversation? How many people do this over and over again? And I guarantee you see it in your own life. You try to make a point. You try to stick on that point, stick on that course. And I invite you all, for those of you watching the recording or with us live, I invite you to read the rest of that surah. See how this conversation plays out. See how Musa alayhi salam deals with Pharaoh when he talks like this. So Pharaoh is going in a different direction altogether. Didn't we raise you? Huh? You ungrateful person? Huh? Didn't we raise you? Is that the point that Musa alayhi salam is saying? But then look at even this. There's some psychological thing going on here, right? Then you did what you did. And if you know the story of Musa alayhi salam, just to fill in the blank here, in case for those who aren't aware, Musa alayhi salam was caught in a scuffle, and he was inadvertently, accidentally, he punched someone, and it killed him. He was innocent because he didn't know, and like his own strength, he didn't intend this. So look at how Pharaoh is trying to really emotionally guilt trip Musa alayhi salam. But bottom line, what I'm trying to get at with this whole conversation, look at how Musa alayhi salam is starting, and look at how Pharaoh is replying. It's not one-to-one. Trying to deflect this whole conversation here. So any thoughts, Brother Maruf, on this, or shall I continue?
Yeah, please. This one so far so clear.
Sound good. All right, mashallah. Now look at this example of our Prophet ﷺ mentioned in Surah At-Tawbah. Now, when it comes to, again, listening with the intent to reply versus listening to understand, look at this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing our Messenger ﷺ, saying that, and there are others who hurt the Prophet ﷺ by saying, he listens to anyone. Now, let me stop for a second here by saying, when the people are saying, you know how there are some people, they just rank themselves a certain way and they don't want to go below. I've met some people, subhanAllah, they say, don't talk to me unless if you're the same level or higher. Same level as in CEO or this. If you're beneath, if you're working as a, as this in this lower position, don't even talk to me. And subhanAllah, it really, I don't know what to say about that. But our Prophet ﷺ is the best of the best, cream of the crop. Yeah, subhanAllah. And so Rasul, and so the ayah continues, say, O Prophet, he listens to what is best for you. He believes in Allah, has faith in the believers, and is a mercy for those who believe among you. Those who hurt Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's messenger will suffer a painful punishment. If you knew who Rasul was, you wouldn't say anything bad. Like subhanAllah, you just know. But look at the key here. The thing to extract from this is that he listens to what's best for you, and he believes in the believers. So whenever you have folks who are in a position of power and they don't take shura or they don't listen to folks, they just kind of are tunnel vision, or they only listen to certain folks and they're like, I only listen to the top of the, I don't want to bother listening, whatever your position is. SubhanAllah, it goes to show that our Prophet ﷺ didn't have this quality. He listened to everyone. He listens, look at that. And they're look at how they're mocking him. He listens to anyone. Like, if it doesn't matter if you're a slave or it doesn't matter if you're the king. So it just goes to show how some people operate, that as a human being, people want to be heard and listened to. Now, does it mean that you be taken advantage of and you just, no, of course not. But at the end of the day, Rasulullah saying, look at the ayah again, he believes in Allah, he listens to what is best for you. And it's just a reiteration. Rasulullah is sent as a messenger for us. It's for us, our benefit. And so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us all and be among those who really encapsulate that. So now how do we be present, or how do we the art of listening? What's one technique you and I can take away from this? Whenever you're having a conversation with someone, one little tip is being present by making sure that you're in that conversation in that moment and summarize what's been said. So how would that look? If someone's talking to you, let's just say, all right, okay, like example, a parent and their child. Their child is talking about their day at school. So you can start doing stuff. That's one way, like, you would do it while the child is talking to you. And that's not, would that feel like you're being present? Probably not. If I'm talking to someone, I want to make sure I'm zeroed in, I'm with you. I'm eye contact, body language, everything, I'm with you. And then summarize what's been said. So maybe the child's like, oh, today we were painting and it was fun and I was this and that. So you can say, oh, it sounds like you had a great time with painting. So it works wonders. It shows the other person that they've been heard. So at the end, be present, drop everything as much as you can if it's reasonable. Just you'll really have that one-on-one connection versus this, and summarize what's been said, and that will work wonders. That's going to show you the art of listening, because it's going to force you to listen, and not with the intent to reply, but with the intent to understand, right? Because how can you summarize if you're listening to reply? I won't know what's been said. So this is one little tip right here to really bring that into action. Now, nonverbal communication. I don't know how many of you are familiar with The Office. This is, something that is interesting to start things off. Look at that. Think what you're saying is the most important thing in a presentation. False. It's your body language. You hear it time and time again with the nonverbal communication. Little experiment. I'm so happy. I can't wait for this data to continue. It's just amazing to me. Would you buy that for a second? As opposed to, I'm so excited, this is amazing, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. Probably, right? Nonverbal communication, it's body language, it makes it. And I'll give you one little thing right here. Some people, when they cross their arms when they're talking, I'm having a good time. Probably not really, it's not arm crossing. It could be a sign of comfort, not necessarily to say that it's a defensive thing. But when you are more comfortable, typically, your palms are open, your body is open, you're more open, eyes are brighter, wider, right? So everything is just open. So body language, they say, never lies. Now, here's one example. We're talking about body language here. It's not just about what you say, but also how your body's communicate. Look at what the Prophet ﷺ said. Here's an example. Look at this. The Prophet ﷺ said, to a faithful believer is like the bricks of a wall, enforcing each other. And look at this, this is the nonverbal part. While saying that, the Prophet ﷺ clasped his hands by interlacing his fingers. Rasul, he could have just said that alone. A faithful believer to a faithful believer is like a bricks of a wall enforcing each other. You would get it. You get that imagery. But if I was to say, if I was to use that as an example, and do this, right? Now you're really getting it. You see, look at the difference here. Look at that. It's like a bricks of a wall that you're really enforcing each other. When you do this, now the image sticks a lot more. We all help each other out. Oftentimes, it's hard, right, to imagine that, what's a brick of a wall? I got to do this. But when you do this, the nonverbal part really sticks and it makes a big point here. So far, so good, Brother Maruf? Or
yeah, sounds good. I think according to the research, about 80 to 90% of the communication is nonverbal. Right? Because when you're speaking, you think what I'm saying is important, but 80 to 90% of what you're saying it is important, but this doesn't make you feel judged, right? Like you are sending other signals to other people whenever you're speaking, and that's what you're picking up.
Exactly.
80 to 90%. Can you imagine 80 to 80%? Majority of this is not even what I'm saying, like how I'm saying, where I'm saying, when I'm saying, all the stuff.
Exactly. So if we're not aware of it, the body will do what it wants, right? So that's the key. Now, all right, action plan. How do I improve my nonverbal communication? One, the idea, you can record yourself. If you got access to a camera, you can try having those conversations, recording yourself or looking in the mirror for nonverbal communication. So what does that mean? How does that look and how does it play out? Let's just say you have a presentation for your work, or maybe not. Maybe you want to just practice small talk, for instance. One idea is practice small talk. Imagine the camera is the person that you want to talk to, and you just talk it out. You can record yourself and then play it back. I know a lot of folks may not be comfortable with this. They're like, I don't want to see myself on camera. It looks weird. But I'm telling you, that's what really is going to differentiate and separate folks who will see what they're improving. Because sometimes, I'll give you an example, Brother Maruf, like there was the other day, there was this one person was saying that she's been told by her colleagues that she looks very intimidating, and she had no idea why. And so, I mean, if you look at what does intimidating mean, right? Maybe your eyes are more scrunched. When you see yourself, oh man, like I didn't realize I really do certain nervous habits or things of that nature. One of the things I discovered when I tried this myself is that I played with my hair when my hair was longer. Like I played with my hair when I was doing a lot of stuff like that. And I realized, whoa, wait, this is distracting, right? So I'm telling you, it's going to work wonders. And a lot of athletes do this, don't they? Right? When athletes, they want to get better, they look at the tape, see what went wrong, and then say, all right, I got to make a mental note and fix that. So similarly with nonverbal communication, maybe you scrunch your eyes a lot. Maybe you smile great, which is fantastic. Maybe you twirl with your hair. Maybe you cross your arms. You never know until you actually record yourself and do this. Face it, and or look in the mirror. You'll start to see some things you wouldn't otherwise. Right. Now, subhanAllah, when it comes to this attitude of gratitude, right? Just to preface this conversation is that every social interaction, if you look at it as a gift, it's going to change the way you look and change the way you feel and change in a positive way, right? Like whenever you look at every social interaction as, here, I have a gift I want to give you, I want to share something with you, as an attitude of gratitude, it's going to really make things a lot easier in terms of those social interactions. I'm here to give, I'm not here to take. All right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says it very famously in Surah An-Nahl, right? If you try to count Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings, you wouldn't be able to count them. Go ahead, make a list of all the things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you. Can't, and so you can list out your problems. Sure, it's limited, and maybe that takes up a lot of space in your mental capacity. But when it comes to the blessings, it's innumerous. SubhanAllah. Just study the human body by itself. Just study that. And you're already in a world of awe and amazement. So if we cultivate that attitude of gratitude, let's see how that looks in terms of our social interactions. This is a really cool example, SubhanAllah. I always get excited when I talk about Dawud alayhi salam, Sulaiman alayhi salam, SubhanAllah, people of power, So Sulaiman alayhi salam, Prophet Solomon, you'll hear his name in the Bible. Sulaiman alayhi salam smiled. Okay, so just to put this into context, there were some ants that were talking, and they were saying, "Oh, we got to be careful, otherwise Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salam is gonna crush us." So as a response, that's where, at her words, like who's the words? It's actually the insect and the ant. Surah An-Naml. That's where the surah is coming from. So Sulaiman alayhi salam smiled in amusement at her words and prayed, "My Lord, inspire me to always be thankful for your favors, which you have blessed me and my parents with, and to do good deeds that please you. Admit me by your mercy into the company of your righteous servants." Whoa. SubhanAllah. Let's stop for a second. Who's talking here? Is it just an average person who's just, this Paul, he was a king. He was a prophet. Why does he have to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this? Inspire me to always be thankful. He's making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Isn't it already implied? Why do I have to, But subhanAllah, just right then and there, he's saying, always like, please give me the strength to always be thankful, inspire me to be thankful, because people forget. It's just human, you know. People forget when you're doing good. Imagine you have a company. In the beginning, it's rough and tough. You're praying day and night for success, and oh, nobody's helping me. No one is, money is tight, and this and the other. Mashallah, suddenly you get a client or you get some big payday. Whoa! All right, now let's work on expanding. Let's work on making sure we get a new facility. Oh, let's improve this. Now you start to become preoccupied with that. Where is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the picture? For some, it's gone because you're so preoccupied now with all this newfound success. But here comes Sulaiman alayhi salam saying that always reminding himself and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to just be thankful, you know. And even the ability, I highly doubt that any one of us at this point can speak with animals, but you know, that's one of his favors that he's been given. And mashallah, it's just amazing to see that someone at that level, at that capacity, is always humble and just saying, like, you know, he's grounded, you know, and he's grounded in reality, knowing that this is not his accord. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so what's the action plan? Here's an action plan from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Here's some really interesting one when it comes to the attitude of gratitude. So Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu reported that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Give each other gifts and you will love each other." Look at this. Give each other gifts and you will love each other. You know, I feel good when someone gives me a gift. Feels nice, right? Now, does it mean it has to be a physical package? You have to order stuff on Amazon to give a gift? Is that how it is? There's so many things that you can do that doesn't require so many things, like in terms of, you know, not to break the bank. Giving each other gifts can just be a simple word of kindness, can't it be? Right? That's one example. Some people, they have a really bad day. Oh, it was the worst day of my life. When you have that little emotional pick-me-up, it can be the greatest gift of all, you know? So when it comes to communication, when we have that attitude of gratitude, remember, circling back to the beginning of this part of this conversation, when you look at every single social interaction as a way for you to offer a gift, offer something, it really changes the dynamic, because I'm not in this, you know, antagonizing, or it's a boxing match, or, you know, let me, what can I get from you, or this and the other, what can I take from you, right? You see people with sponsorships, the one way they go about it is, oh, you know what, let's just get the, you know, take the money and, you know, just give me this and give me that, because, you know, if you're always self-serving in that regard, I don't know how many people would be willing to work with that. But if you're saying, hey, look, I'm here to give you something. I'm here to always give you a gift. Right? I'm here to be thankful and saying, look, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me plenty. I just want to share something with you. I think this will really work out. Have that mutual, you know, relationship. And Rasulullah is telling us, you know, give each other gifts and you will love each other. So giving gifts is good. Now, just one little caveat, just to make sure nobody gets the wrong idea. Some people maybe might interpret this and say, oh, does that mean I have to buy, you know, chocolates every day and I have to do this and the other? No, there's not abusive. There's some people who are materialistic. You don't want to get to the point of materialism where you only love me if you buy stuff for me. This is not what it is. To enhance the already existing conversation or relationship, adding a gift, a surprise gift, it works wonders. You will strengthen that bond. But a relationship solely based on gift giving, this is not a relationship. This is like conditional love or conditional stuff. I've seen, you should probably go on YouTube or other places. You're gonna see more than your fair share of kids. And may also want to protect us from this. You are kids, they say, I only love my mom and dad when they give me a cookie or something like that. Like, you know, I mean, you don't want a relationship to be built on something like that. Or even, you know, fiance and husband and wife, and, you know, that when they're saying, oh, I only love when you deposit this, you know, we want to say that this gifts is like, you use it in a way to enhance, and again, doesn't necessarily have to be presents all the time. But at the end, when you give gifts, when you have that attitude of gratitude, just like Sulaiman alayhi salam right here, right, always being thankful, it works wonders, inshallah. So, yep, Sister Hodan, you got something? Or I guess, yeah.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I know we're coming to the end of this, inshallah, but I just wanted to say that in terms of gifts, one of the things that made me understand is any impression of increase is a gift. And that could be a kind word, as you said. It could be a physical gift. Anything that shows that you're being thoughtful to the other person. And it also, like when you're giving gifts, it's good to be mindful of the other person and what they like, and what what would make them happy. Like a little kid might be satisfied with something very small, such as a lollipop, for example, but you're just being thoughtful because you know that this child will enjoy it. Maybe you're given your boss is getting married, or someone is getting married. Well, you wouldn't give them a lollipop at that moment, but something thoughtful, something that shows that you thought about that person. And I think that's really all that matters. I think it's people in general, we want to feel that someone cared, and that's really why we feel good when someone says something nice to us, or does something good for us, or gives us something, inshallah, bi'idhnillah. In addition to that, I wanted to mention the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam in Surah Al-Qasas, when he ran away from Fir'aun, and he found himself to be very alone at that moment. He was all by himself. He didn't have, he was missing so many things. People, he didn't have his family. He didn't have wealth. He didn't even have a place to sleep, and, just in the middle of Midian, in the middle of that area where he knew nobody. So I think that's a beautiful story to think about when in terms of loneliness. And what did he do? Similar to Prophet Yunus alayhi salam, he also turned to Allah and he made a dua as well. And it's a beautiful dua, mashallah. You'll find it in verse 24 of Surah Al-Qasas. He said, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khairin faqir, which basically translates to, my Lord, I am in need of whatever good you sent down to me. And alhamdulillah, after that, Allah accepted his dua, and he ended up even getting married, subhanallah. And, it's a beautiful story. So I encourage people to go and read it, inshallah. Read Surah Al-Qasas just to hear the rest of the story. But this also shows us that, while there's a difference between loneliness and being lonely, I think we're social beings as human beings, and we do need one another. But obviously everything comes after the need of Allah. Like, we turn to Allah first, but we still do need each other. And what do we do in situations like that? Alhamdulillah, we have du'as that we can make. We ask Allah, just as Brother Maruf was saying, to give us good companionship, because it's important to have good companionship, but also to be content with who we are as well. So it's all a balance, it's a balance of things, alhamdulillah. Lastly, I wanted to say, I kind of giggled a little bit when you were talking about, standing in front of the mirror and saying things. And I remember when I was a little girl, actually, like, it was a practice of mine that, I used to do. I usually, when I was upset because, I wasn't like, some people are very quick to think about things to respond or to say. And I was not like that. I would be silent, and then I'd come home and I'd think of all the things I could have said, so subhanallah. And I would find relief in that. Actually, it did, it was a way. Now going, like, thinking about it as an adult, it was actually a smart thing to do, because you don't want to keep things inside you that are bothering you. You want to release it. And I came across an image today of a book. Subhanallah, sometimes it's interesting how things happen at certain times, but it was an image that said, on another book was written things I wanted to say but never did. And this is the question now I'm going to pose, is what do we do about all the things that we feel that we could have said but we didn't say? And I know it's kind of a little outside the scope of this conversation. But when we're communicating with people, a lot of times we don't communicate properly, and we don't say the things we wanted to say or what we meant. And that also brings conflict between, people, like whether it's siblings, whether it's parent child, spouses, friends, a lot of things that were left unsaid. And unfortunately, even like when people die, they say the thing that people regret most was the things they never said to the person. So I just wanted to kind of poke your mind about that, inshallah, and see what you'd like to add. Bi-idhni rahman. Assalamu alaikum.
MashaAllah, Sister Hadan. Very, very cool. A lot of great insights there. And I appreciate you sharing the story of the, looking in the mirror. A couple of things, if I may, just to comment real quick about what you mentioned before. See, already, I don't know if anyone picked up on that, but MashaAllah, Sister Hadan was, actively listening. She called back something from Brother Maruf about the, good companions. See that? So she caught that. And in addition to the prophets that you mentioned about Musa alayhi salam, wonderful. You'll see across the board, the prophets, you'll find them at some point in their life that they were alone. Ibrahim alayhi salam was alone in the fire. Yunus alayhi salam was alone in the whale. Yusuf alayhi salam was alone in the well. Right? Rasulullah was alone in the cave. And, the list goes on. Dawud alayhi salam, he had his own seclusion there. So subhanAllah, it's wonderful to see that, you just see it across the board. We need each other, but again, not to the point that it's like oxygen. So wonderful. Really appreciate that insight. Now, to answer your question or to provide some perspective on it, let's see. You want to say something. Let's say you had an argument with someone. You on the tip of your tongue, you had something you wanted to say, but then after, when you get home, now I know what I should have said. How is the question, Sister Hadan? How do you deal with that, or how can you be more responsive in that moment? What is the
both.
Okay, fair enough. Brother Maruf, would you like to say something, or shall I go for it?
No, you can pick it. I know what to say at this one.
Well, Brother Maruf, mashallah, you're taking a back seat today. I don't know.
No, I'm thinking. I will make a comment after this.
No worries.
But I think this one on your.
Not a problem, Brother Maruf. So, okay, let's deal with one at a time. For the initial response, what am I gonna do? Let's say it's just a matter of practice. That's the key. The more social interactions that you have with folks, you'll start to see you're going to make associations and make things a lot quicker. For instance, I know nowadays with COVID-19 and the pandemic, it might be hard from time to time to have regular conversations. But if you are in a position where you are face-to-face a lot, you will see that you can continuously interact and have that conversation. So the responses you'll find comes quicker. You will find patterns. Now, in terms of regret, that's the key, I think, from what I understand, is that when you wish you could have said something, you didn't say it, and now it's eating you up inside because, I missed that opportunity. So at the outset, I would say it's twofold. First, recognize that, like you mentioned, we only get one shot at certain things. And for future reference, if you need to say something and that's appropriate, that is right, then you seize that opportunity as much as you can, because you never know. But for all the past things, I think you mentioned that book of things I wish I said but I didn't. It's like carrying emotional baggage that's not needed anymore, unless if you want to go revisit, and if the time is right, and if for whatever reason it happened, then you can go close that emotional loop. Then fine, you can go out and do it. Like you've always wanted to tell someone something. For instance, you always admired, I don't know, their shoes, for example, and for some reason that really bothers you that you didn't say it. Okay, maybe if the conversation is appropriate, you can close that loop by reaching out if appropriate. But let's just say it's been years past and you don't lose contact. You just gotta accept it and move on. And always recognize, Sister Hadan, that nothing is forgotten. As Muslims, we believe, as mu'min, we believe nothing is forgotten. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps a record of everything. So everything is already recorded. So you just got to worry about, okay, what the thing that I am concerned about, is it worth my time and energy and effort? Is it weighing me down so much that it's affecting my future interactions? Or is it something that I can work with and move forward? So I hope that
And,
offers a bit of perspective.
and one more thing, I think, which would be very helpful in this case is that if you can develop a habit before you go every day, you close the deeds. What I mean is that if someone did something for you, forgive. If you want to say something, just say. If you did something mistake, you have to ask for forgiveness from that person, or at least as to the point where the brother Muhammad is saying, we are closing the account before you go to sleep. Close the account from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you did mistake, ask for forgiveness. So you're going to sleep on a clean sheet because you have no idea if you're going to wake up or not, right? We don't know. So it's actually not a wise thing for a Muslim to keep this grudge, over a day, to be honest. If you keep, the more you do, it's actually affecting you, your psyche, your heart and body, soul, everything. It has a very heavy toll, and which we don't understand. It will catch up with us later on. So this is one of the things I usually do before going to sleep. If I wrong someone, I ask forgiveness. If someone wronged me, I do my best to forgive them, because honestly, I don't have anything to on anybody. This way I can sleep better. I don't want to take grudge on anybody, to be honest. Even they wronged me, I try to forgive as much as I can, and this could be good for you. Even actually, it's better for you than the other person, to be honest, if you know the fact.
Yeah, forgiving yourself is a big key here. As at some point, mashallah, it's a very good practical point, Brother Maruf. Like closing the account, like do a little reflection. Okay, at the end of today, are there any debts I need to pay? Okay, maybe I insulted someone by accident, or maybe I really, I really I should have bit my tongue at this particular instance. Maybe I'll give him a call, give him a text, say, hey, I'm really sorry and I apologize. So at least you make amends. But the more you hold on to certain things and let these little things pile up, like Brother Maruf said, down the line, it's just gonna weigh you down. It's just like, again, emotional baggage. And then that's gonna affect your future relationships or your future interactions, because you're so heavy with all the guilt and stuff that you put on yourself. How are you expected to give it your all for the next person? So it's not fair to them, right? So that emotional baggage, managing that, and seeing what's worth your while and what's draining. So does that help, Sister Hodan, in any way?
Oh no, Alhamdulillah. I think you covered the two things you mentioned was the qadr, accepting the qadr, and the other thing is also as Brother Ma'ruf was saying, making a habit to basically let go of things that you can't control. However, it's also good for us to, I think, be mindful of these things and not just to kind of shove them under the carpet, because when we do that, then, as you said, we become heavy moving forward. Now, there are obviously experiences in life that may need more than a day, or may need sometimes more than a decade for you to really be able to heal from it. And that's fine. Everyone kind of needs their own time to heal from things. However, in general, a lot of our conversation is also the things we never said. And I think that's just what I was kind of bringing up, is not only is there, we talked about the body language, and we talked about things that we express, but we didn't really discuss what we don't express, which is, I think, just as important.
Absolutely, right.
100%.
Like, mashallah, when it comes to things you don't, it's not the things you say, sometimes the things you didn't say. But the only reason why the things you didn't say, like Umar bin Khattab, I remember, mashallah, you mentioned that, I don't want to misquote. So like the idea is that sometimes it's better not to say certain things, right? Sometimes it's good to actually hold back. But I see your point, like maybe you wish you could have expressed something, but you didn't, or reply a certain way. So at the end of the day, it just, again, it's all checks and balances. It's just a matter of how much weight is this carrying.
Yes.
And people always say, sometimes I heard another thing, say time heals all things. It's not the time. It's not time. It's what you do in that time that's what's healing your thing. People, they say, oh, just sleep it off. It's not about that. It's like, how do you look at things, and it's not about, it's just the stuff that you do in between. And Brother Maruf, mashallah, very, very put it well. Like when it comes to look and, sleep with, have a good night's sleep by knowing that, okay, I'm not trying to wrong anyone, I'm not trying to insult anyone, I'm not trying to, because at the end of the day, Allah subhanahu, where am I going to run? Like, where are you going to go? Somebody takes your money, someone takes your, insults you, somebody is, smearing a campaign on you, like, and at the end, what are you going to do? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the end is going to say, all right, here's your good deeds, here's your bad deeds, let's talk. What are you going to do? Like, and you know what? Last thing, subhanAllah, we're talking about nonverbal communication. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying our own limbs will testify against us. Your own hands are going to talk about, because everything's going to be sealed up. Your own hands are going to testify against you. That's scary in and of itself. Like when it comes to nonverbal, you're talking about nonverbal communication, because you can say, oh, I didn't do this. Imagine in court, imagine this situation. Imagine there's a court, someone was accused of a crime, let's say stealing something. People are talking, you hire the best lawyers, you hire this, that, and the other, and they get away with it simply because of their words. Imagine if the thief's own hands are saying, yeah, I did it. What would you say? Oh my gosh, right? SubhanAllah. So I don't mean to cast such a bleak cloud, but it's the reality. And Brother Maruf mentioned, mashallah, the majority of body language is nonverbal, right? Like, what was I saying? The majority of communication is nonverbal. So what more way of emphasizing that than the Day of Judgment? So, khair.
So that was the I guess the last session on kalam and communication. This is the end of this session, but it doesn't mean this is going to be end of the Jumuah Gems. So one of the things I've been thinking recently, I think I already communicated to you, Brother Muhammad, and Sister Hadan as well. I think I already mentioned you guys know that one of the things I've been learning, like as my side thing for the last couple of years, is this personal development, right? How do you try to be a better person today than you were yesterday, right? And doing that, actually, I did as much as I can. I looked at what we have today, the coaches and this and that, as you know. I've been to learning a lot about habits, because I believe if you want to change, the change starts with you, not from the world, from someone with you. You have to change, because it's the hardest thing. And to do that, you have to learn what the habit is, right? What's habit? And how do you build a better habit and get a bad one? So to do that, I went to one of the best habit, I wouldn't say coaches, but the professors, right? Who wrote a book, who teaches that. It's called Tiny Habits. For everybody who's listening, check it out. So that helped me to create very good, alhamdulillah, some really good habits. For example, I walk every day, right? When I'm walking, I'm listening, I'm contemplating all these things, alhamdulillah. At the same time, for me, there's something was still missing. I said, okay, the habits are good, but I want to go a bit more. That's why I think some of you may know, I went and learned from Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is one of the best coaches, I guess, in personal development, business development. Mashallah, he had a very interesting approach. In a nutshell, he looks at human beings like, because one of the things I like about him is like he simplifies. Not the simplistic, but simplified. Because, okay, as a human being, we have 6 core human needs, right? We have certainty needs, uncertainty needs, significance, love, growth, and giving. This on that order, right? And then he teaches you like to find out where you are and how you can go from one to another one, right? So it helped me tremendously, right, to look at myself and how it's going to affect me to become a better person. And still, like, I was just saying, okay, what does Islam say? Like, because for me, like, to be honest, like, with all due respect, with the Tony Robbins and the other coaches out there, they try to downgrade one part, which is the main thing, right? Which is the creator, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because they try to somehow, as you can see, many books, many things, these things we learn, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is absent. That's not what we believe as Muslim. We believe Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are gonna make him, not to make him president, but we're gonna put him in the middle, right? It doesn't make sense to learn how to become a better version without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why I was actually doing some research on the personal development in Islam. as usual, that's also I have to. I'm also a victim, I guess. We always don't look what we have first, right? Because it's like grass is greener always on the other side. That's why I looked what others offer. I mean, even the best ones like Tony Robbins, mashallah, they're good. But from them, what's missing is the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself from that approach, right? If you want or not. And then for his own reasons, whatever the reasons are. So when I did the research, starting from Imam al-Ghazali and other scholars, and recently there was this book I read from Abdul Rahman. He made a mashallah good book about Islamic psychology. So based on that, like it's also another simple explanation about who we are. It's actually in Islam, there is something called ilm al-nafs, the knowledge and the study of the self. Unfortunately, that part has been forgotten. And that, unfortunately, some of us look at Islam like a bunch of rituals we have to do, right? Instead of doing it like a spiritual journey. And that part of the Islam, that looking inwards, right? Looking inwards, trying to understand yourself. Because if you don't understand yourself, how can you understand your creator? How can you understand other people? Like anything we discussed today, the communication is also part of it. Like even we discussed today, the power, look at the Pharaoh, right? What he said. And why? Because, and it seems that I think that I heard a beautiful analogy from a friend recently. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the scholar said that in the past, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has attributes, right? Some attributes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want to share with the servants, like kindness and goodness, right? You can be kind, there's no problem. However, there are some attributes specifically reserved for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he doesn't want to share with anybody. He's very jealous in that way. I mean, if you want to tape it, he will. There's another paradox. Like one of them is the power. He's the most powerful one. If you go after power, he will humiliate you. But if not in this world, if you just go for the sake of power, that's what I mean. If you want to have just the power for the sake, but if you want to have the power to help others, that's okay. Do you understand the final subtlety, right? Or if you want, let's say, honor. If you just want honor, just for the sake of honor, he will dishonor you. But if you don't want the honor, but if you want to humble yourself, like look at the example for Prophet ﷺ. And what does he do? He will exalt you. It doesn't make sense, right? Do you remember we discussed another paradox the last week? We said if you want the increase, give sadaqah. It doesn't make sense. But we said the paradoxes, right? So this is the ilm al-nafs where we can study what is the human being. Is it just my body? This all we see in the materialistic world, like hedonistic point of view. I have to get best of this life, but there is more to it. Like it seems that from the Islam doesn't look at the body as the body. Yeah, it is a body, but it's just one part of it, right? Of the self. There's body, there's mind. I'm not talking about the brain. I'm talking mind, thoughts, right? And there is heart. Do you remember there's a hadith of Prophet? There's a one part of the body, right, which is healthy, everybody's. That's the heart, not necessarily the physical, but also the heart, the feelings. And then we also learn there's also ruh. If you remember the question of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala breathed part of his ruh into Adam alayhi salam, right? That soul, the higher self. And there's also lower self we call the ego, right? They say, oh, this guy is egoistic. And then there's the lower self. And then there are different states in Islam, like the fitrah, the being awake, right? And there's also ghafla, being asleep. Like, do you remember the Matrix? People sleeping, they think they are living, but they're not. There's a beautiful analogies there. So it seems that there's this long forgotten ilm al-nafs. And this is something, inshallah, that what I'm doing is that there are two things. Inshallah, the next week and the ongoing, like next probably 4 or 5 weeks, I want to share what I've learned, and I will invite you, Brother Muhammad, and also I'm also inviting 4 to 5 people to be a part of this study group. Like we will do this first part on live here, like we are doing, but also there will be conversation. There will be a part of the group, which is good because we see that people see that I just want to move on. I'm not looking for that kind of people. Yeah, we will share it anyway. Only the other parts what people don't see is that I want people who want to really learn this stuff, to want to improve themselves. I really encourage them go to halal.ad/free to book a time if you want to be joined a part of this group. I'm going to make another video on this one as well. To join, just take us 4 weeks with us. We will go through this ilm al-nafs, inshallah, and see how the kind of change it's going to make in your life, and you can witness. And for those of you who don't want to take it, just want to listen or watch, this will be probably streaming the first part of the findings here, inshallah. That's what I want to finish. So it's not the end, and it's the beginning of something else, inshallah. So this is how we're going to continue with this Jumu'ah Gems. Any questions, Brother Muhammad? Any questions, Sister Hadan, on that one?
No, Jazakallah khairan, Brother Maruf. Appreciate the invitation.
No,
It's
Jazakallah
going to be
khairan.
fun. Yeah, so it's been fun. Like with Kalam, again, this whole series and this is a beginning. Like, it's not the end, it's the beginning of something new. But for those of you who would like more details, more information, again, kalam.ca is a go-to. But Jazakallah khairan, Brother Maruf. Jumu'ah Gems is still on, and we're going to have some fun.
Yes.
Brother Muhammad, just a quick question. With kalam.ca, are you also open to be to accept speaking events?
Yeah, I'm absolutely, I'm open. It's all virtual at this point. That's the thing. So virtual is my go-to at the moment. But yeah, I'm happy to do speaking events. Yeah.
Inshallah.
Exactly.
No, because I think I mentioned this to you before, but it would be great for especially leadership for our youth. Like, I think they're in need of this kind of information and this kind of knowledge. Alhamdulillah.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Yeah, by all means, for anyone tuning in, let's talk. Kalam.ca is a go-to. You can see on social media. MashaAllah, just the other day just yesterday on Instagram, had a live session with a brother talking about resiliency. So and on Facebook you get some stuff, and YouTube we have some stuff. Like YouTube is the main big one where you get all the juicy, detailed, in-depth information. But yeah, for all the different social media platforms, we got it. So, but Jazakallah khairan, Brother Maruf, again, kudos to you, and thank you so much for giving us this platform. And looking forward to the next chapter. Inshallah, the personal development is going to be fun. It's going to be something worthwhile, and inshallah, be long-lasting transformation in a good way. So that's the key. I think a lot of people, you mentioned about coaches, and unfortunately not painting everyone with the same brush. Maybe not everyone's getting what they hope for, but in this case you're fusing the world of coaching with, mashallah, the rich history of Islam and what it says, and that's what we've been looking for. So alhamdulillah, looking forward to that.
So by that, we're gonna conclude the session. It's been almost more than 1 hour, a bit longer. But thank you for Brother Muhammad for preparing this session. May Allah reward you. May Allah accept your deeds, and hopefully we hope that people will benefit from this. And thank you, Sister Hadan, for joining us, for interesting questions and helping. Assalamu alaikum.
Ameen. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.